It was a crisp Friday evening in a small American diner just off Route 66, the kind of place where the jukebox hummed old rock and roll tunes and the smell of freshly brewed coffee mingled with the sizzle of burgers on the grill. The clock on the wall read 8:46 p.m. PKT, though in this corner of the USA, it was a more familiar 10:46 a.m., the morning rush having just tapered off. The diner's blue vinyl booths were mostly empty now, save for a lively group of friends occupying one near the window. Sunlight streamed through the blinds, casting striped shadows across the checkered floor, and outside, the hum of occasional traffic blended with the chirping of birds. At the center of the booth sat Jamal, a wiry young man with a mop of curly hair, wearing a black t-shirt emblazoned with the bold red, Supreme, logo. He held his phone aloft, snapping a selfie with his buddies, their laughter echoing through the diner. To his left, Tyler, in a gray hoodie, pointed at the camera with a wide grin, while Ryan, sporting a leather jacket and earbuds, leaned in with a smirk. Behind them, a group of bikers in matching vests stood near the counter, their tattooed arms crossed, watching the scene with mild amusement. The diner's waitress, an older woman named Margaret with silver hair pulled into a neat bun, shuffled over with a coffee pot in hand, her apron stained with a fresh spill of dark liquid that dripped onto the floor. "All right, you kids keep it down now," Margaret said, her voice carrying the warm drawl of a lifelong Midwesterner. She poured coffee into Tyler's cup, the steam rising in lazy curls, though her hand trembled slightly, and another splash landed on the table. "Oops, sorry about that," she muttered, wiping it with a rag that was already soaked. The boys chuckled, unfazed, as Jamal lowered his phone and adjusted the angle for another shot. "Don't worry, Marg, adds character to the place," Jamal teased, his grin infectious. The diner had been a pit stop for their road trip, a spontaneous getaway from the hustle of Chicago. They'd been driving since dawn, chasing the open road and the promise of adventure, and this retro joint felt like the perfect backdrop for their memories. The walls were lined with black and white photos of long-gone patrons and a faded Harley-Davidson poster, giving the place a nostalgic vibe that suited their mood. Tyler nudged Ryan, who pulled out an earbud. "Dude, we gotta get this on Insta. #diner vibes, #road trip USA, he said, his voice brimming with excitement. Ryan nodded, scrolling through his phone to check the lighting in the photo. The bikers, sensing the energy, exchanged glances but stayed silent, their presence a quiet contrast to the youth's exuberance. Margaret shuffled back to the counter, muttering about needing a break, and set the coffee pot down with a clink. She'd been on her feet since 5 a.m., serving truckers and tourists alike, and the spill was just the latest in a string of small mishaps. Her arthritis was acting up again, a nagging reminder of her 68 years, but she loved this diner, her late husband's dream, and wasn't ready to let it go. She glanced out the window, where a couple of motorcycles gleamed under the morning sun, their owners likely part of the biker gang that rolled through every few weeks. Back at the booth, Jamal handed his phone to Tyler to review the shot. The image captured their laughter, the spilled coffee on Margaret's apron, and the bikers looming in the background like a scene from a classic American movie. "Perfect," Tyler declared, uploading it with a flurry of hashtags. Ryan leaned over, adding a caption, "Living the dream, one diner at a time #Route 66 #best crew." The door jingled as a new customer walked in, a lanky guy in a trucker hat, his boots thudding against the floor. He nodded at Margaret, who greeted him with a tired smile, and slid into a booth across the room. The diner's rhythm resumed, a blend of clattering dishes and soft conversation, as the morning stretched toward noon. Outside, the sky was a clear blue, dotted with a few lazy clouds, promising a good day for travel. Jamal stretched his arms, the leather of the booth creaking under him. "Man, I could live in a place like this," he said, gazing around. "No traffic, no deadlines, just coffee and good company." Tyler laughed, sipping his drink. "Yeah, until you miss Wi-Fi and start whining." The banter flowed easily, a testament to their years of friendship, forged through late-night study sessions and impromptu adventures. Ryan, ever the planner, pulled out a map from his backpack. "Next stop's about 50 miles west, some old gas station with a vintage sign. Should get there by lunchtime if we leave soon." He traced the route with a finger, his brow furrowed in concentration. The others nodded, their road trip itinerary a loose guide rather than a strict schedule. This freedom was what they craved, a break from the grind of college and part-time jobs. Margaret returned with a tray of refills, her apron now sporting a fresh stain from another spill. "You boys heading far?" she asked, setting down a plate of toast for the trucker. Jamal grinned. "Just seeing where the road takes us, ma'am. Maybe all the way to Cali if the gas holds." She chuckled, shaking her head. "Well, you watch out for those desert stretches. And tip your waitress, huh?" The group laughed, promising to leave her a good one. The bikers, finishing their own coffee, began to gather their things. Their leader, a burly man with a graying beard, tossed a few bills on the counter and tipped his head toward Margaret. "See you next month, Marg," he rumbled, his voice deep but kind. She waved them off, watching as they mounted their bikes and roared out of the parking lot, the sound fading into the distance. Inside, the diner's atmosphere settled into a gentle hum. The trucker ordered a burger, and Margaret shuffled to the kitchen, calling out the order to the cook, a gruff man named Hank who'd been there as long as she had. The boys packed up their map and phones, ready to hit the road again. Jamal snapped one last photo of the diner's interior, the red arrow in the image pointing to his own head, a playful nod to their goofy selfie session. As they stood to leave, Tyler slipped a 20 under his coffee cup, far more than the bill warranted. "For the spills and the smiles," he said with a wink. Margaret caught the gesture and nodded her thanks, her eyes crinkling with gratitude. The trio stepped outside, the warm air hitting them as they piled into their beat-up sedan, the engine sputtering to life. The diner faded into the rearview mirror, a snapshot of Americana etched into their memory. The road stretched ahead, a ribbon of asphalt cutting through fields and small towns, each mile a new story waiting to unfold. They turned up the radio, a classic rock tune filling the car, and Jamal leaned out the window, letting the wind tousle his curls. This was their America, open, unpredictable, and alive with possibility. The diner, with its spilled coffee and friendly faces, was just the beginning.